Well, I did the top 10 staple spells and trap cards, so the next logical conclusion one would make would be to go over the top 10 monster staples in the game. But I don't feel like making hand traps the movie, even if some of you Luna Light players got a problem with it. So rank 4 exceeds the movie, it is. Extra deck staples. So just one little note here, even if the extra deck monster is part of an archetype, if it sees regular staple play for a lot of different decks and is completely generic, then it's still eligible for this list. So let's do it, baby. Digital Bug Corbage is a textbook extra deck utility card. You may not summon him every duel, but he puts in work when you do. There are two methods to bringing him out: the generic way of requiring 2 level 5 light insect type monsters, which obviously would make it not fit the criteria of this list, but he can also be ranked up from any level 3 or 4 insect exceed monster by detaching 2 materials from it. Then that exceed monster becomes a material for Corbage. Now this summoning method is extremely easy to pull off. There is the staple rank 3 Giga Brilliant, who can be an honorable mention for this list, but also another insect type exceed monster that is on this list make Corbage splashable in almost any deck that can go into rank 3 and 4 exceeds. But why? What's the point? It's just a butterfly. I'd be careful what you say around this thing. It'll make fun of your inferior optic nerves until you switch yourself to defense mode, then you're getting spun. On a soft once per turn, you can detach a material from Corbage to target a defense position monster your opponent controls and shuffle it back into the deck. It does have a second effect that when the battle position of a monster is changed on the field, you can attach one insect monster from your graveyard to Corbage as a material. A lot of people don't know that because usually this card comes out to spin not only just your monster, but to spin your jaw. Great finishing power by removing opponent's obstacles, sheerly situational, but common enough of a board state to where spinning a defense position monster is a nice tool to have access to. This is a man that comes out and says, "I'm a butterfly, fuck you." I gave Utopia Ray some heat when Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon came out, saying it'd be imprisoned in the card catalog, never to be used again, and I'll admit, I was wrong. The Utopia/Utopia Ray package is still a very strong setup for a lot of extra decks. Utopia is a generic rank 4 that can negate attacks by detaching materials, which whatever, we'll never use that. Utopia Ray, on the other hand, is a sentient war crime. Normally it'd take 3 level 4 light monsters, but like Corbage, it can be ranked up, specifically from Utopia, except Utopia doesn't lose any of its materials. Instead, all 3 cards become materials for Utopia Ray. Then, Big Ray can detach an exceed material to gain 500 attack and make an opponent's monster lose 1000 attack. That effect is not once per turn. And with 3 materials, you can boost Utopia Ray as high as 4000 and take a high of 3000 attack from an opponent's monster. One caveat, you need to have 1000 or less life points to use this effect, making it again a more situational toolbox type card. But Ray's ability to close out games is what it's known for. One attack from Big Ray can easily end a duel. In my humble opinion, Nightmare Shark is the best rank 3 exceed in the game. Like Utopia Ray, this guy exists to end games, completely generic materials, and can detach an exceed material to target a water monster you control, and this turn it can attack directly, but the rest of your monsters cannot attack. It sounds a little niche at first, but Nightmare Shark can target himself with this effect. And with 2000 attack, it can wipe out half of your opponent's life points instantly, so he's usually brought out strictly when your opponent is at 2000 or less life points. Any rank 3 deck uses this card. Phantom Knights, Burning Abyss, Magnets, Triamids, etc. Basically the Utopia Ray for rank 3 exclusive extra decks, but it's also way easier to use. You know, for a long time, I never took a good look at Abyss Dweller's artwork, and I thought it was just a cave, like literally just a cave. I mean, they've done it before, so don't look at me like I need that Corbage prescription. Then I clocked and saw straight. Yo, this thing's sick as fuck. Completely generic rank 4 has a passive effect where all water monsters you control gain 500 attack if he has a water type exceed material. Works on himself too. And like, whatever, but he has a quick effect to detach an exceed material, and for the turn your opponent cannot activate any cards from their graveyard. That effect is really good and has only gotten better as we've gotten more and more good cards that activate from the graveyard. It's good on your turn to negate the effect of a Kiteroid in your opponent's graveyard, for example. It's good on your opponent opponent's turn to prevent Metalfoe's fusion from shuffling itself back into the deck, as an example. Very anti-meta type card, and on top of being a widespread staple, it's also the boss monster of Water Exceed. One of the most consistently successful decks Duel Links has ever had. Really good, really cool, and I want one. I give a damn if it'll eat me and then detach a material to negate my reincarnation. It's that cool. Erratic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis. You say the name and you already know what it is. Generic rank 8 Exceed with 3,000 reasons to get that SPF 8000 sunblock and Evil Eye Ray-Bans. Blinding aesthetics. Can detach a material to tribute monsters from either your hand or field, and then you destroy an equal amount of cards on the field. He can tribute himself for this effect, and this effect does not target. Instant board wipe if you have enough tributes. Effect-wise, it might have the best one on the entire list, but it being a rank 8 takes it down a peg as a staple. But still very doable for a lot of decks. Blue Eyes, of course, DDD, Gandora, Witchcrafter, Block Dragon, Thunder Dragon, and even some innocuous things like Megalith and Vendread make good use of it. I guess I'll put it this way. If it was a rank 4 with that effect, it'd probably be banned. But even though it's more restricted than Abyss Dweller, its sheer power level easily makes up for it. Steel Swarm Roach will always hold a place in my heart. Shit, a lot of you wouldn't know about my channel if this card was less confusing. Completely generic rank 4 and has the effect that during either player's turn when a level 5 or higher monster would be special summoned, you can negate the summon and destroy it. Very confusing for a lot of new players when it doesn't negate the fusion summon or the ritual summon of a level 5 or higher monster. I have a whole video about it, but in short, Roach negates special summons, not effects that special summon. Take Lunalite Fusion. Though it special summons a level 5 or higher monster, Roach cannot negate it because Roach can't negate spell cards. So it only works on monsters that special summon themselves, such as Giga Ray's Gandora or Chaos Dragon Levianeer, or summoning through a game mechanic such as Synchro Summoning or Pendulum Summoning. And in a meta of DDD and Gandora running everything, Steel Swarm Roach has climbed up to being the second most played extra deck card in the game as of me making this video. And that's why number 5 is perfect in my opinion, because Roach is always played, but how often he's played really depends on the meta. And in this particular meta, he's exceptional. I used to think he was a little weird looking on some District 9 type shit, but my channel might not have gone anywhere without him, so these days I look at him and I think he's kind of cute. I almost want to own one. Who's a good little exoskeleton? Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon is a more accessible and easier to use Utopia Ray in a nutshell. It can detach both of its materials to have the attack of one of your opponent's monsters, and then Exceed Dragon gains the lost attack. So if you targeted a monster with 3,000 attack, it'll go down to 1,500, and Exceed Dragon would go from 2,500 to 4,000, guaranteeing at least 2,500 damage. But if you controlled a monster with 1,600 attack to beat over the monster you just soul sucked, then you win. Easily the best finishing toolbox Exceed monster. You look at Vermilion Dragon Mech, and you tell me that you're gonna give this man an attitude. Unlikely. Unless you don't mind not having a face anymore. The only synchro monster on this list, and in my opinion, the best one that's ever been in Duel Links. Level 9, generic materials, 2,700 wedge, and once per turn, he can banish a tuner monster from your hand, field, or graveyard to target and destroy a card on the field. More often than not, you'll be banishing from the graveyard, since if you brought out Mech properly, then you're guaranteed to have a tuner monster in your graveyard. It's a bang on command. Now, 9 seems like a difficult number to go into, but not really. This card is used in Buster Blader, Blue Eyes, Light Sworn, Dark Magician if they're running Night End Sorcerer, Block Dragon, Dinos, Fortune Lady, Thunder Dragons, and quite a few more. Making a level 9 Synchro without requiring 2 non-tuners turns out to be one of the best levels for a Synchro monster, ironically. Mech also has a floating effect as some icing on the cake. If he's destroyed by a card effect and hits the graveyard, you can add one of your banished tuner monsters to your hand, which you will have if you resolved his destruction effect. It can clear back row to push for lethal, get rid of problematic boss monsters, and gives you some good recursion if your opponent deals with it per card effect. When I think of solid cards, Mech comes to mind for sure, just so well-rounded and useful. Diamond Direwolf is a free pop on the field, kinda like Mech, except Dire is as accessible as extra deck monsters get, generic rank 4, effectively giving the vast majority of decks a utility card in their extra deck to blow something up if they need to. It can detach and exceed material to target a beast, beast warrior, or winged beast monster you control and another card on the field, and both of them are destroyed. And he can target himself, and that's usually how it works. He doesn't stay on the field usually unless you're running something like Black Wings where you contribute a different monster under its criteria, but Diamond Dire can do even more for a lot of decks. Some decks like having monsters in the graveyard, such as Teller Knights, Destiny Hero, and Block Dragon. So in a way, for some decks, Dire can pop a card on the field and also set up your graveyard. I don't know if it's just because he's such a good little doge, but widespread play, like straight up. The aforementioned decks, but also Harpies, Magnets, Shiranui, Abyss Actors, Necros, Ritual Beast, Odd Eyes, and that's just to name a few. Who's a good boy? Malevolent Sin is not only the best extra deck staple, it's the best by a mile. In my opinion, it's the greatest extra deck monster in Duel Links history, not in sheer power level, but in usefulness. Completely generic rank 4 with 2400 attack, which is pretty high for rank 4 standards, and it is an insect type, so going back to number 10 real quick, Malevolent Sin is so good that Corbage gets to be on this list since it can rank itself up from Sin. So all this hype, what's it about? You can detach and exceed material to target an opponent's monster and banish it until the next standby phase. And that's all you really need to know. It's Diamond Dire on steroids, just with less targets. Banishing is so much better than destruction and usually goes uninterrupted. Take a deck like Metal Foes, a fusion archetype. Typically, they are running 6 fusion monsters and 1 Malevolent Sin. Even though they can go into rank 4s very well, the only one they choose to run is Sin. Phantom Knights are another meta deck that is discouraged from running more than 2 rank 4s, and what do they run? Malevolent Sin and Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon. If there's level 4s in your deck and you got a slot, putting Sin in there is always going to be good. He also has an effect to gain 300 attack every time he does battle, just makes him a little beefier. Sometimes it makes a difference, but it's usually just another one of those icing on the cake type things. It gives most decks an out to boss monsters, and that is so incredibly valuable. Like, oh my, okay, it's seen play in Phantom Knights, Gandora, Harpies, Magnets, Metal Foes, Odd Eyes, Yosenju, Ritual Beast, Teller Knights, Fire King, Witchcrafter, Black Wings, Despot, Destiny Hero, Elemental Heroes, Railway, and I shit you not, that's not even half of them. And the most amazing part about it is, all of these decks that use him, he's not like a super rare niche situational card. He's a genuinely useful and devastating card for almost all decks in the game to go into. Who's the good little spider? That's gonna do it for this top 10, everyone. I may do the top 10 main deck monster staples, but like I said, you know, Hand Traps the movie, we'll have to see. Regardless, I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video.